Okay, I'm going to start this morning by just welcoming all of you guys back. Welcome back to Wat Tung Yu, Sawadee Kap. Good morning to everyone. Today is our first full day of the retreat, and we're going to be starting off with meditation. I'm going to guide you guys in breathing mindfulness meditation today. Then we're going to move into having a talk about enlightenment. What is enlightenment? So you guys can understand this better. Then we're going to be discussing the Four Noble Truths, which is the very first teaching of the Buddha, where if you're interested in getting on the path to enlightenment and training your mind to get to enlightenment, you would need to know this teaching. Then we're going to break and have free time. And if you guys would like to come to the excursion today we're going to the hot springs out in Sankapang. I'll, at the first break, kind of check in and see who would like to come. There's a park there that is a national park, and they have hot springs, and you can soak your feet, you can soak your whole body. They even have a whole swimming pool full of the hot water that you can go in and kind of be in there. They even have these private little bungalows that you can go in and rent by the hour, or you can rent for several hours and kind of have a private bungalow or a group soak kind of thing. They have food and different things like this. So I'll check in with you guys at our first break and see who would like to go, so I can organize transportation if there's folks who would like to go. And by the way, the purpose of these excursions, yes, it's to have fun and enjoy and spend time with each other. But the idea behind them is that you're learning teachings in the morning together as a group. And these things, maybe you would like to talk about them. Maybe you would like to spend time having conversation with each other. Maybe you're interested in trying to put some of those teachings into practice around caring and kind people that understand that it's not easy to put the teachings into practice, so you can be around other people and putting the teachings into practice. And then when we come back in the evening, this evening at 6:30, I'm going to be doing a talk on the three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. And also at that time in the evenings, anything that you learned in the morning and that you were practicing during the day and you have questions about, you can ask those questions in the evening time to get clarity on what it was that I was talking about in the morning. Of course, you can ask questions in the morning, but as you're learning in the morning and then you're trying to practice these teachings during the daytime, then in the evening you might have questions. So that's what those excursions are for, to give you a chance to put the teachings into practice and even have conversation about the teachings potentially with others if that's what you would like to do, and get to know each other. So I'm going to start with guiding you in meditation, and if you guys would like to join along, you might be sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair. And those of you guys that are sitting on the floor, it's like everyone here sitting on the floor. Those of you guys at home, you might be sitting in a chair or on the floor. You would like your lower body comfortable, just nice and relaxed. Some people like to put mats under their rear. This gets the hips up in the air. You can even put the legs off the mat, which also accomplishes getting the hips up in the air. It lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And this allows the circulation to flow, so you don't have pain in your lower body. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use this, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees, or their palms up. Essentially, your lower body and hands and arms should be relaxed. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be complacent or dull or lethargic. But also if you were real rigid, the mind would have a tendency to be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the sternum up and the shoulders back in order to get the upper body erect, and it keeps the mind attentive and alert, allowing you to breathe in more naturally through the lungs. Then as I ease into meditation, I will do these chants, and Jeannie handed out the daily chants for you guys. They're always on this table over there. So you guys, when you come in the morning, you're welcome to pick one up. These chants are in the Pali language, and this is the language that the original teachings of the Buddha are in. And during the lifetime of the Buddha, they chanted his teachings word for word for word. So he would teach for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. They would remember his teachings, and then they would chant them and recite them. This is how they committed them to memory. These chants, it's not mystical or magical. There's no special powers here with the chants. It's not a prayer or worship or any kind of rite or ritual or ceremony. If you read the chants in the English translations, you see a lot of respect and gratitude and admiration admiration for the Buddha. And because of that, I suspect the Buddha didn't actually create these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha and an enlightened being doesn't walk around with ego and arrogance and boastfulness and teaching people to chant things to them. So he wouldn't have gone around and taught people to chant these things to him. But instead, if you learned from a teacher who had no expectations of you, and just out of the generosity of their heart and the kindness of their heart and their love and compassion, they helped you move from this anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, moving to this peace and joy where your mind is permanently in that mental state, you'd probably have a lot of respect and admiration for that person. So I suspect that they created these as a way to show admiration and respect and gratitude, either during his life or after his death. So I do these chants in order to ease the mind into meditation. We don't need to chant them in order to commit the teachings to memory anymore, the way that they did with the Buddha, because we have books and videos and podcasts and things like that. But I chant them because it helps me to build awareness of mind and kind of invigorate the mind, helps me to build awareness of the breath, helps you to build memory and things like this, so that way you get more benefit out of the meditation. So that by the time you start meditating, you already have invigorated the mind, you've already got some awareness of the breath, so that you can start getting benefit right from the beginning. Whereas if you just plop down in meditation, it might take you 5, 10, 15 minutes to start getting any benefit out of your meditation. So I teach these chants in the various courses that I teach, that I help students learn them. And if you're interested in learning them, I can surely help you. I don't have it built into this retreat, but other courses and various venues that I teach, I will teach these chants. But you guys are welcome to chant along with me if you like. And after I do the chanting, I will provide you some guidance in the meditation so that you can actually learn how to meditate while we're actually meditating. Then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be us meditating. Those of you guys here and those of you guys at home will just all be meditating together. Then afterwards, we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then I'm going to move into a talk to help you actually understand meditation in more detail, using the words of the Buddha and helping you to understand how to actually develop a meditation practice. But I thought I'd let you guys experience it first before we start talking about it. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable, either on the floor, in a chair, there's actually 4 different positions. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable in any of these positions, I'm going to be teaching you walking as part of the retreat. So make yourself comfortable for today, and then as we go, I'll introduce you into these various positions to meditate in. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakevanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakevata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakevato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakeva Arahang สัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to your next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. ระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะพุทธังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวะมนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you'd slowly like to make your way out of meditation. Okay, so this was our first breathing mindfulness meditation together as a retreat. And this is the way that we're going to start each one of our mornings. We're going to start with some type of meditation. First, we're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation. And then we're going to be eventually moving into loving kindness meditation. And then by the end of the retreat, you're going to be learning the meditation to realize non-self, because that's part of getting to the first stage of enlightenment, is to understand how to realize non-self. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to help you to understand how to actually practice meditation through some teachings that are going to help you understand breathing mindfulness meditation, and starting off with the words of the Buddha. Because as you guys heard me share yesterday, I'm not interested in you believing anything that I share. You shouldn't believe anything that I teach you, anything that's in the books, anything that you hear anyone else teach you about the teachings of the Buddha. So I'm going to start you off with helping you to see some of the teachings that the Buddha is sharing on meditation. You shouldn't even assume that the Buddha taught meditation, right? It's pretty well known that the Buddha taught meditation, but don't even assume that he's taught meditation. Look for yourself. See his original words about meditation. And in this book series, there's an entire book dedicated just to breathing mindfulness meditation. It consolidates his teachings from those 45 volumes of the Pali Canon down to one book that has a consolidated version of his teachings on breathing mindfulness meditation. And these are just a couple of the things that he said about meditation, just to help you build this confidence that he indeed did teach meditation. So this first one, he says, meditate, monks. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. What he's referring to here is, of course, meditation, but he's saying, don't be complacent, don't be lethargic, don't be dull, because you're going to regret it when you're angry and you're frustrated and you're agitated and you feel stress and anxiety. You're going to regret having not meditated and built up your practice, because that's really the catalyst that's going to help you to train your mind. There's other training that you need besides meditation, but you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation. So you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment, but you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So it's one component of your practice. It's one important component. So the Buddha's here saying, don't be complacent with your meditation practice, because it's really easy as you're starting to learn meditation and you're trying to build up a tendency to meditate, to be like, no, I don't need to meditate today, or no, I'm going to surf Facebook a little bit longer, or oh, let me watch that TV program, or let me do this, or let me do that. Your mind's going to come up with all kinds of excuses why not to meditate. And it's kind of like when you first learn to brush your teeth and take a shower, that your parents were there kind of motivating you, like, go ahead, you got to go take a shower, you got to brush your teeth, go ahead. And you're like, I want to play, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the last thing we were interested in doing was taking a shower and brushing our teeth. But then somewhere along the line, we were maybe 10 or 12 or 14, we started realizing, like, I like that taste in my mouth when I brush my teeth, and I feel kind of fresh when I take a shower. I like that feeling. I'm going to start doing this on my own. My parents don't have to tell me anymore, because you started noticing the benefits of taking a shower and brushing your teeth. So it's the same kind of thing with meditation, that you're going to need to convince yourself enough early on to do it, because mom and dad aren't around to tell you to meditate anymore. And I'm not going to call you up and tell you to meditate. You're going to need to do that for yourself. But eventually, after you do it enough, you're going to notice the benefits of it. And then you're not going to be able to imagine a day going by without meditating. Just like you clean this body every single day, you're going to need to clean the mind every day. This is part of your life practice. This is part of the journey to enlightenment, is training the mind. So just like you clean the body, you're going to need to clean up the mind each day. And if you're not cleaning the mind right now, then that means your mind has that pollution in there. So you need to clean it up and get that out of there. And as you start seeing the benefits, you have more of a tendency to do it without necessarily feeling like, oh, it's such a chore. By the time you get to the first stage of enlightenment, surely you don't look at meditation as a chore anymore. You look at it as like, wow, this is really helpful. And there's no way you can imagine going without meditation. This other phrase here is, a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. What the Buddha is describing here is the pot is your mind. The stand is your meditation practice. What he's saying is, it's easy to tip over your mind without a meditation practice. It's easy for you to get discontent, angry and frustrated and agitated and annoyed, and having guilt and shame and fear and stress and anxiety and loneliness and boredom and all those feelings that the path to enlightenment is designed to eliminate. It's easy for you to experience those feelings if you don't have a meditation practice. So it's easy to tip over the mind, to get discontent, if you don't have a meditation practice. So if you're looking to build up your stand, the more that you practice meditation, it's like getting this wider and wider stand. And now it's harder and harder to tip over the pot. So the pot right now, your mind, it might be like a dowel rod. Depending on how much you've been meditating, there might just be like a dowel rod there that your mind is kind of teeter-tottering on. But the more you meditate, this stand gets wider and wider and wider, and it's harder and harder to tip over your mind. This next teaching here, this is a discourse where the Buddha is talking about the importance of breathing mindfulness meditation. I'll read it to you. It says, monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to enlightenment. Exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge, experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing. Breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So he's not saying you only need one thing to get to enlightenment. Otherwise, he would have just taught meditation and that's it, right? Done deal. Here's your meditation. Go meditate. He's explaining that this meditation, if you practice it, it has one goal. It has one purpose, and that is to get you to enlightenment. It's kind of like your car or your motorbike. It leads to one thing, transportation, right? But you need other things in your life besides a motorbike or besides a car. You need food, you need clothes, you need water, you need shelter, you need other things too. So the Buddha here isn't saying that you only need one thing to get to enlightenment. He's saying if you practice this meditation, it leads to one purpose or one benefit or one goal, and that is enlightenment. So here you can see he's exclusively calling out this breathing mindfulness meditation is what you need in order to get to enlightenment. And he prioritizes this. If you see some of his other teachings, and he talks about the natural law of karma, which is cause and effect and action and result, which you're going to learn about in this retreat. It's about making wise decisions that lead to wholesome results. He talks about breathing mindfulness meditation as the highest quality of karma that you could ever produce. And loving kindness meditation as being the second most highest quality karma. Karma is the results of your decisions. So if you're training your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, which you're going to see that's what this meditation is doing, this is the very best thing you could ever do for your life because it's leading to this elimination of discontentedness. So this is the highest quality of karma that you could actually produce. You're sitting in meditation, you're not harming anyone, you're reducing the pollutions of your mind, and now when you go out into the world, you cause less and less harm in the world, and you'll experience more and more benefit because of that. So these are some words of the Buddha on breathing mindfulness meditation, but there's an entire book that's dedicated to his consolidated teachings on breathing mindfulness meditation. This is just giving you a glimpse into that so you can have confidence that the Buddha indeed taught meditation. So now I'm going to help you to learn this in detail so that you can understand how to practice and build up your meditation practice. The first thing I'd like to do is share with you a definition of what meditation is, because different people come to these classes and courses and retreats with different understandings, and I would like you to understand where I'm coming from when I'm teaching you meditation and what I mean by that. So I typically do this when I'm teaching a topic. I don't assume that your understanding of meditation is the same as mine, so I like to define things, and not just about meditation, but any topic that I'm teaching about, I will tend to define it first so that you understand where I'm coming from on that particular topic. So here I define meditation as a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're training the mind to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate certain wholesome qualities in the seated, lying, standing, or walking positions. So just like I'm sharing with you what meditation is, it's important to understand what meditation isn't, because sometimes nowadays someone might say, oh, I'm going to go for a jog and meditate, or I'm going to go for a drive in the car and meditate, or I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate, or I'm going to do some gardening and meditate. While these things might be very beneficial and they might be well needed in your life, it's important that you don't think of those as meditation. That's what people are actually practicing in day-to-day life, and you guys are going to learn what mindfulness is, but you can't actually meditate. If you're doing meditation the way the Buddha taught, you can't do this all day long. It would be impossible for your mind to do that. So even though these things might be something that you do, it's important to not look at them as meditation. As you're developing a meditation practice, it's helpful to have a meditation teacher. If you have somebody that you can reach out to, that you can get help with or help from, because at different times in your journey to enlightenment, you're going to be experiencing different things in your meditation. And you might need to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. And if what you get back from a teacher is, oh, that's normal, keep going, it can give you some confidence and reassurance that you're headed in the right direction. Because there's been some situations where students have contacted me that actually didn't have a teacher, and maybe for 2 years or so they were trying to meditate on their own. They were watching YouTube videos, reading books, trying to figure out how to get to enlightenment by themselves, which an individual can't do unless they're a Buddha. Like I talked about yesterday, only a Buddha can get to enlightenment by themselves. And there's this one particular student who contacted me after trying to do this on their own for 2 years, and they ended up into some really difficult situation. This person was a doctor, a physician, and they were doing this work on their own, trying to meditate and learn how to awaken the mind. And they got to a point where their mind was in a deep depression. They were sleeping for 23 hours a day. They were having suicidal thoughts. Their relationship with their fiance was falling apart. They couldn't work any longer. They couldn't go to work because they were having such significant issues with their mind. And this is all because they didn't have somebody to help them and guide them on the path. Eventually, this person reached out and found a teacher. He found me, and he ended up coming here to Thailand, and he spent some time here, and he learned while he was at home in his home country, and he eventually worked himself out of all of these challenges because he had the guidance that he needed. But for about 4 years or so, his life was really, really difficult. He eventually got back to work, and he got out of that suicidal thoughts and the depression and all that, but he did end up losing his relationship with his fiance, and he really struggled during those 4-year period. I don't suspect that any of you guys will ever get into that situation because you have somebody that you can reach out to, and that's why I put this in here, that if it's me that you would like to reach out to, that's fine. You can reach out to me. Even if I don't hear from you for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're always welcome to reach out to me, and I will help you. But if it's not me, find somebody else that you can reach out to, a human being, because you can't just read a book or watch a YouTube video and get to enlightenment. It's not possible. You'll find that the mind will kind of spiral out of control sometimes because you don't have the guidance and the structure of somebody to help you. Only a Buddha would be able to awaken their mind to enlightenment by themselves. And the last one that the world is currently aware of existed 2,500 years ago. So you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. You're going to need guidance and someone to help you. So be sure that you have that as part of your practice, somebody to help you. Then there's these 4 positions of meditation: seated, lying, standing, and walking. I'm going to teach these to you and help you to learn them. I'm going to introduce you to seated, lying, and standing now, and I'll introduce you to walking as well. But then as part of this retreat, I'm going to teach you how to do walking meditation. We're going to do it as a group as well. So let me share with you how I use these different positions. And remember, don't believe me about how I use these positions. You're learning, and then you can reflect on that, and then you practice and see for yourself how you would like to use these positions, because that's what you would like to do, is build your practice. I'm just here guiding you, explaining to you how I use these meditation positions, but you might find other uses for them beyond what I'm sharing. So the seated position for me is kind of like a go-to meditation position. That's like 80-90% of the time I use seated position. It's really simple. It's really easy. It's on the floor or on a chair or a bench or anything like this. You know, I've been places like in a doctor's office, sitting and waiting for the doctor, and I can meditate right there in the chair at the doctor's office. So if you're on the floor, it's usually with some cushions under your rear, with your legs lightly crossed, your hands in a comfortable position, and your body upright. And if you're in a chair, you might put your feet flat on the floor or crossed at the ankles. This can be like your go-to position. A lot of people learn in the seated position. But when you're in the seated position, you might notice that sometimes your body is aching. Like I sometimes have a little bit of back pain, and I'm not able to sit up straight. So this is where lying position comes in. If you go to lying position, you just lie on the floor. If you've ever done yoga, I think they call it resting pose or shavasana or something like this, where you just lay flat on your back, face up, with your hands and arms out to the side. All the muscles in the body are completely relaxed. What you're doing with the mind between seated and lying is exactly the same. It's just that the body's in a different position. So you could use lying position whenever you notice that the muscles in the body are achy and you would like to lie down. You can also use lying position in situations where you can't sit. There was a time where I got into a motorbike accident. I couldn't even cross my legs because of the accident. So lying position was really helpful for me. When I was lying there in the bed with the IV hooked up and all this kind of stuff, I was able to still meditate. So lying position is helpful for that reason. But with lying position, sometimes you can potentially get sleepy and maybe fall asleep, right? So if you're noticing that you're getting really sleepy, this is where standing position comes in, and or walking position. So if you're dozing off, either in the seated position or in the lying position, if you're noticing you're dozing off, that's where standing and walking is really helpful for you. And the way that you do standing is you just stand up straight and you grip your wrist either in front of you, or you put your arms along the side of you, or you grip it behind you. There's not just one way to do it. You just would like your arms to be nice and relaxed. So you just stand up straight. And I've even done this at a bus stop before. One time I was waiting for a bus and I knew it was going to be 15-20 minutes for the bus to come. And I just stood there and got a little bit of meditation because there wasn't a place to sit down at the bus stop. So you can use it for that too. I've even used it one time I was waiting in line at an office here in Thailand, and I knew this line only moved like once every 20 minutes or so, and I would be standing in the same spot for a long time. So I would just close my eyes and stand there and meditate. So you could do it that way as well and use it in different locations. And it helps your mind to be in these different environments, and you're able to meditate in these different environments. And then there's walking position. This is really good, again, if you're falling asleep or if you're noticing that your mind is overactive. If you go to sit down and you're like, oh my goodness, there's just too much energy, like there's no way I can sit here. Like you might feel a lot of energy in the mind and like you want to go, 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 go. So you can put some movement into the body and it will help the mind to calm down. So if you're in lying or seated or standing and you notice your mind's overactive, you could switch to a walking. Or you might just know right off the bat, there's no way you're interested in sitting or lying or standing, and you can just go straight in to walking position. So you can use these positions interchangeably within the same session. You don't need to strike a pose and just keep that pose throughout your entire meditation. If at any point you notice any pain in the body, you would like to just adjust your position. So even if you're 5 minutes into your seated meditation and you notice that there's aches and pains in the body, just lie down. Or if you're noticing that the mind's starting to fall asleep after 5 minutes or so, maybe you stand up or switch to walking. So you can switch these positions around. So any questions on any of these things here that I'm sharing? You guys online, you guys are welcome to ask questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Yeah, if you could use a mic, that'd be great. And you can take it back to your seat too. And just keep it with you guys. That way, if any of you guys need it, you have a mic there.
Maybe, yes, no, it works. And all of these are using like the same breathing techniques of these different kinds of meditation?
Yeah, these different positions, this is just the position for the body. So when you hear me teach you what to do with the mind during meditation, it's going to be exactly the same for seated, lying, and standing. So breathing mindfulness meditation, like the way I just taught you, and I'm going to teach you some more about how to train the mind. You do it the same thing with the mind. It's just you're putting the body in a different position. With walking meditation, I'm going to teach you that as part of this retreat. You do something a little bit different with the mind, but it's very similar, but a little bit different. And we don't do loving kindness or any of the other meditations in the walking position. It's only the breathing mindfulness meditation that we do in the walking position. But this same exact thing that you're doing with the mind, you do that same thing, just the body's in a different position. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here online, so we'll go ahead and move into the next thing I was going to share with you guys, which is some more words of the Buddha so that you can see the 4 types of meditation that he taught, because I teach these 4 meditations myself as well. I teach what the Buddha taught. I don't interject things that doesn't lead to enlightenment. I teach you what the Buddha taught, and I use his words to help you see and build confidence that, yes, I'm teaching you the same things that the Buddha taught. So here, he's actually talking before this about certain things that you need to develop for your life practice, and I have that discourse in the book series where he's talking about different things that you need to develop. But then eventually he gets to this point where he says, having based himself on these 5 things, the 5 things that he was talking about previous, the monk should develop further another 4 things. And these are the 4 things that he's saying you should develop for meditation. The perception of unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. This is a meditation to eliminate sexual cravings. If you're noticing that you're having a lot of sexual cravings and you're trying to temper that and bring that down, or some people are working to eliminate sexual cravings 100%, there's a meditation to be able to help you do that. Then loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. This is a specific meditation you're going to learn in this retreat that helps you eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, frustration, irritation, annoyance, all those lesser versions. So you'll need to learn that one as part of your journey to enlightenment. And it even helps you to eliminate negative self-talk. If you like degrade yourself and you talk, you have this inner dialogue that is negative and diminishing, this meditation will help you eliminate that too. Then here you see number 3, mindfulness of breathing or breathing mindfulness meditation should be developed to cut off thoughts. So this is why when you're focused on the breath and the mind's moving off the breath, you're cutting that off and letting it go and bringing the mind back to the breath. Your goal isn't to eliminate the thoughts, but you're learning how to let them go. That's what the Buddha is describing here, that you're going to need to learn how to let them go. And you're going to see as I teach you more today and the other days in the retreat, why he's teaching this, that the mind needs to let go because it's holding on and holding on. So you'll understand why he's teaching this, but just know that it's not to eliminate your thoughts. Even when you're enlightened, you're going to have occasional thoughts in your meditation, but the mind will be quieted and it'll be stilled. You'll have an occasional thought and you'll know that you had it and you'll be able to easily cut it off and let it go by the time the mind gets to enlightenment. But in the unenlightened state, you'll typically be bombarded with thoughts in your meditation, or you'll indulge in a thought and kind of follow it for a period of time before you realize 2 or 3 minutes down the road, like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back. So this is common. If you notice that during your meditation that you had a bombardment of thoughts, or you actually indulge in a thought for a period of time, this is completely normal. You're not bad at meditation. It's just that your mind needs more training. You need more discipline, more control of the mind. And then this fourth one here, the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit I am. When one perceives impermanence, the perception of non-self is stabilized. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit I am, which is nibbana or enlightenment in this very life. What he's talking about here is realizing non-self. This is the meditation that I'm going to teach you as part of this retreat to help you eliminate personal existence view. And I'm going to explain to you in this course and in this retreat of what personal existence view is, what the universal truth of non-self is, and how to do this meditation. But here, this is the Buddha just introducing his 4 meditations. And then what I've done here is I've laid it out to show you what are the unwholesome qualities that you're eliminating and what are the wholesome qualities that you're cultivating. Because remember, the definition I gave you for meditation is that you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities or you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So here with breathing mindfulness meditation, you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment. You're going to understand what that is today because I'm going to walk you through and help you understand what this is. And when we talk about the 4 Noble Truths, and you're cultivating mindfulness or awareness of mind in training the mind to reside in the present moment with concentration or singleness of mind. You're going to understand what that is tomorrow when I'm teaching you the 8-fold path of why mindfulness and concentration are so important. And then with loving kindness meditation, which you're learning in this retreat, it's helping you eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions, and cultivate loving kindness or this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And I'll teach you guys that. Then there's this meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, to help you eliminate sexual cravings or sensual desire. And what you're cultivating is this unattractiveness of the body. Right now, you may see that the body is attractive. That may be the way that you feel, is that when you look at a human being, you might be like, wow, he's really handsome, or wow, she's really beautiful. And that's normal, but that's because we're not seeing true reality. We're seeing the outer shell. We're seeing the clothes. We're seeing the hair done a certain way. We might see jewelry or makeup, or there's certain scents. We do all these things to the body to make it look attractive for other people. But the way that you eliminate the cravings for sex is you need to be able to see the body as it truly is. So the meditation here is to actually meditate looking at a dead corpse that has been dissected and the skin's peeled off so that you can actually see the body as it really is. And this is what will help you decrease your sexual cravings. And if you are interested in eliminating your sexual cravings, this is what will help you do that, is kind of get the impression of what the body really looks like rather than kind of seeing this outer shell with the skin and the beautiful hair and makeup and all the other things we do to the body to make it look attractive. And that may not be something you're interested in doing right now, today, but it's something that you can do as part of your training to enlightenment. And then there's this meditation to realize non-self, which helps you eliminate this personal existence view or the concept of a self and cultivate impermanence through eradicating this conceit I am, or realize non-self. And you guys will understand what that is more as we go forward in the retreat. So here's a way that I help you guys to learn how to start and conduct your meditation sessions, giving you guys these pointers to understand about meditation. The first thing that I share is the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. This is important for you to understand because you understand what you're doing with the body, that you would like the body to be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. You would like it to be in the middle where it's comfortable. Because just like if you're going to go see the boss, you got to go through the employee, right? If the employee is angry or disgruntled, they're not going to take you to go see the boss. But also, if they're luxurious, they're complacent, they're not going to take you to go see the boss there either. So you need the employee to be comfortable so that they'll take you to go see the boss. So the same thing is true, is you need this body to be comfortable so it'll take you to go see the boss so that you can actually train the boss. So that's why you would like the body to be comfortable. If you ever experience any pain in the physical body during meditation or any other time, you would like to adjust the body, right? The Buddha showed us through his own life story that I shared with you yesterday that causing physical pain to the body doesn't lead to enlightenment. Remember, he was hanging himself upside down from trees. He was piercing his body with metal implements. He was laying on beds of nails. He was starving himself. None of that led to enlightenment. So if you're in a meditation position and you feel pain, or your knee is screaming at you and saying, this really hurts, don't just breathe through the pain. Sometimes people will teach you this, is they'll say, if you feel pain in meditation, just breathe through it. No, that pain is there to tell you, hey, something's wrong here. Your knee isn't feeling comfortable. The employee's telling the boss, like, hey, something's not going well here. So you would like to adjust the body. There's no certificates given out for people who breathe through the pain, right? There's no glory in that. It's not going to help you, because if you're trying to train the mind to eliminate those certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate wholesome qualities, if your mind is like pain, it's going to be very hard for you to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate certain wholesome qualities. So just adjust your body slightly, or just completely change positions to a completely different position so that you're not experiencing the pain. The Buddha shares in his teachings, when he talks about meditation, he will say, set up mindfulness in front of you before you do meditation. If you read his words and his instructions about meditation, he will say, set up mindfulness in front of you before you meditate. What mindfulness is awareness of mind, that you would like to have some awareness of mind to kind of ease into the meditation. So if you're setting up mindfulness in front of you before you meditate, that means you're getting awareness of your mind before you ease into meditation. So for me, what I do is I will typically take off my shoes. I will come into some place. I will kind of make the body comfortable, kind of sit in a more comfortable position or whatever position I'm using. And then I start chanting. And that's what's kind of invigorating the mind and bringing some awareness to the mind. And that's how I do it. But you can decide for yourself what you would like to do. You don't have to chant in order to get to enlightenment. That's the one thing that I teach that you don't need to do in order to get to enlightenment. Everything else that I teach you, this is what you would need in order to get to enlightenment. But you can actually get to enlightenment without chanting. But you can't get to enlightenment without mindfulness. You're going to need mindfulness. You're going to need to set up mindfulness in front of you. So if it's chanting that does that for you, wonderful. Use that. If there's something else, maybe you like to do a little bit of stretching. Maybe you like to go to the bathroom and empty the organs and kind of start getting some awareness of the mind. Essentially, what you're not interested in doing is just plopping down into meditation. You would like to ease into meditation with some awareness of mind. And that's what it means to set up mindfulness in front of you. With time, frequency, and schedule, what you would like to build up to is 2 to 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. And this can often take quite a while to build up to. I've seen some students take 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to this. So 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more, and just gradually build up to that. If you start with 1 session for 5 minutes, okay, that's where you're starting. Or 2 sessions for 10 minutes, okay, that's where you're starting. Just start wherever you start. You're not in a competition with anybody. You're not in a race or anything like that. It's your journey to enlightenment. So start wherever you start, but then just gradually expand it slowly but surely to 2 or 3 sessions for 30 minutes or more per day. And what you'll notice is that frequency is more important than duration. So if you have the option of 1 session for 30 minutes or 2 for 15 minutes, go for the 2 for 15. That's where you'll notice the most benefit is the frequency. And then just expand that 15 minutes for wider and wider and wider as you go. if you tried to set a schedule for yourself that every single day I'm going to meditate at 8 a.m. in the morning, this isn't actually possible. You're not going to be able to permanently meditate at 8 a.m. There's going to be things that happen. There's been times where I've been in meditation and I've been meditating for 3 minutes or so, and my son walks in my room. He's like, "Dad, I need you to take me to school." I was like, I thought your mom was taking you to school today. He's like, "Yeah, me too. She's gone. I don't know where she's at." I'm like, "All right, well, guess I'm taking you to school, right?" So you're not going to be able to meditate at the exact same time every single day. Things are going to come up that you need to address. So if you try to set a fixed schedule where you're going to always meditate at exactly the same time, and you're holding on to that tightly, when your son walks in or when something happens, you're going to be discontent. You're going to be frustrated or agitated. So in that situation, if you're not craving, if you're not attached to meditation, you won't be frustrated or angry. You just, "All right, let me go take you to school." I took him to school, and then I came back and I meditated when I got home. No big deal, right? So there's no special time to meditate. Sometimes you might hear that someone says, like, "You've got to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day. That's like the special time to meditate. It's going to produce all these benefits for you." This isn't actually true. Your mind doesn't actually know what time it is. And remember, the Buddha got to enlightenment 2,500 years ago. They didn't have timepieces 2,500 years ago. He wasn't able to tell what time it was. They just looked at the sun and was like, "All right, it's morning," right? Or they looked at the sun and was like, "All right, it's midday," or "It's evening," right? That's really what they had during the lifetime of the Buddha. Because when he talks about meditation, he talks in his teachings, he says that he meditates 3 times a day: morning, midday, and evening. He doesn't meditate at exactly 3:30 a.m. every day because he wasn't able to determine that time. That's a new thing that we do that he didn't have available to him. So there's no special time to meditate. So don't set yourself up to fail that way if you set a fixed time that you have to meditate every single day, because you won't be able to do that. Also, when you're meditating, it's best if you don't use an alarm. Sometimes people use an alarm, and if you need it every once in a while, then go ahead and use it. Like if you're on your way to work or something like that and you only have 15 minutes to meditate and you need to set an alarm, go ahead, set your alarm. But if you don't need it, maybe in the evenings or on the weekends, it's better to not use the alarm, because when you use the alarm, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be in meditation and you're going to be thinking, "Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet?" Your mind's going to be craving, and you're trying to get rid of that craving. So if you set an alarm, your mind's going to potentially be craving to figure out, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Or you're going to be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit, and then it's going to be like, me. I shouldn't have set that alarm. I could have got so much more benefit if I wouldn't have set the alarm. So when you're setting an alarm, it's like you're trying to determine the future. You don't really know what you're going to be doing a few days from now, or a few hours from now, or a few minutes from now. We don't know, right? Maybe the electric all goes off, or maybe some asteroid hits the earth, right? And we all are in an earthquake or something. We don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. So if you try to determine that I'm only going to meditate for 15 minutes, that means you're trying to determine the future, and you don't necessarily know. So if you let that go and you just meditate, and just however long you need to meditate for, that's how long you meditate for. But again, if you need to go to work and you only have 15, 20 minutes, then set your alarm. The way that you keep track of your time to know that you're getting to 30 minutes or more is you look at the clock before you start, and then you look at the clock when you're done. So before you meditate, you look at the clock and you're like, all right, 9 a.m. Then you meditate. Meditate for however long you like. And then when you're done, you look at the clock again. 9:15. Okay, I meditated for 15 minutes. And now you know I need to expand that. Because sometimes 5 minutes in meditation can feel like an hour, but sometimes an hour can feel like 5 minutes. So you'd like to check in on your time by just looking at the time before you start meditating and looking at the time when you're done, and then just do the math and figure out how long you meditated for. And are you within the range of 30 minutes, or do you need to expand it a bit? So that's how you do this. And of course, some of you guys, you have to be at a certain place at a certain time, so use an alarm if that's what you need to do. Then if you notice sleepiness during your meditation, you kind of have a couple of options. One thing is you can just get some sleep. Just go to sleep, right? You can just get some sleep. That might be what you need to do. Or you could change positions. You could switch to a standing or a lying or a walking position. That's the way to invigorate the mind. When you first start meditating, if you're doing meditation the way the Buddha teaches, you might notice that the mind's quite sleepy because it's a lot of work to train the mind in this way. And the mind working like this, it can get kind of sleepy. And with certain pollution in your mind and you're trying to get that pollution out, it's a lot of work. And you might notice in the first 3 months, 6 months or so, you kind of get sleepy because you're working really hard to get that pollution out. But also what you're going to notice is the mind's going to start functioning more optimally. It's going to start performing better. And if you haven't been sleeping very well, if you don't get very good quality sleep, your mind's going to maybe start wanting to sleep more regularly and get better quality sleep. So I noticed a lot when I first started meditating that I got very sleepy. There would be times where I would start meditating. Within 3 to 5 minutes, I would get super sleepy. And sometimes I would just go to sleep because that's what the mind needed, just go to sleep, right? And then I'd wake up and start meditating some more. Or other cases, I would just switch to a different position. So you might notice the sleepiness coming in, and this is normal, but you'll kind of get over that hump as you start clearing out some of the pollution, and you'll notice that your mind doesn't get sleepy during meditation anymore. You might notice physical sensations during your meditation where you get like itches on your skin or something like this. You feel like an urge to itch. And if this occurs, you could just go ahead and itch it if you like. But what you would like to be able to do is observe the impermanence of this itch. You would like to train your mind to not be affected by these external things. So if you notice that there's an itch in the body, if you can observe that it arises, it changes, and it fades away, this would be really helpful for the mind. You can see that it's impermanent. So if you're in meditation and you notice an itch, see if you can go without scratching it. But then after 5 seconds or so, you might just gotta itch that itch. And after you itch it, and if it was about 5 seconds, next time try to make it longer. Try to make it 8 seconds or 12 seconds or longer. Eventually you'll get to the point where you don't have to constantly be itching all the different little spots. So you can do this when you notice any kind of physical sensations in the body. Again, if you notice pain, change the position. That would be very wise. Don't just breathe through the pain. That's unwise. Then you might notice visual stimulation during your meditation. You might see different colors or different lights. You can have certain memories from the past that come up either in this life or even past lives. You can see different vivid memories because the sight that you have, it's actually happening inside the brain. When you have your eyes closed, you can still actually see because the brain is what's involved in sight. The eyeball itself is just pulling in light and helping you to be able to see what's in front of you. But sight itself is happening inside the brain. So even with your eyes closed, you might see like green or purple or white or different things like this. There's nothing special about this. You don't have to run out and figure out, does it mean I'm going to be rich or I'm getting a new boyfriend or new girlfriend or anything like that. There's nothing special with all that stuff. Whenever those things are happening, you just cut it off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. What's actually occurring and the reason why this is happening is that as you're lifting the pollution out of the mind and you're training the mind, there's physical changes that are happening to the brain. The brain and the mind are two different things, and you're training the mind. There's a connection to the brain, and doctors, scientists, researchers, they're actually measuring these things now with CAT scans, MRIs, and other devices. They can see that for long-term meditators who are meditating and training their mind, that there's physical structures in the brain that are changing, and they're changing for the positive benefit. And they're noticing these significant improvements to the functioning of the brain for someone who's actually training their mind. So because the brain is what's involved in sight and the physical structures of the brain are changing, it can produce various visual stimulation. You might even hear these structures of the brain changing. I know I did when I was meditating. I could hear some of the structures of the brain changing. I used to walk around with a lot of pressure in my skull. I used to get a lot of headaches and migraine headaches, and even to the point of vomiting sometimes. I would get such bad migraine headaches. Once you train your mind and these changes are happening to the brain, you won't notice these things anymore. Like I very rarely get a headache anymore. It's only like if there's air pollution in Chiang Mai, I might get an occasional headache or something like that. Maybe once a year, twice a year, something like that. Where before it'd be like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, I would be getting migraine headaches to the point of vomiting. And I would walk around with this pressure in my skull all the time. So you might notice these structures of your brain changing. You might even hear it. And you can see it sometimes happening in meditation. So you don't need to go out and figure out what does green mean or purple mean or white mean. You're not special. You haven't done anything miraculous. Don't allow the ego to kick in and think that you're special because of this. It's just that the brain's changing, and this is a really good thing. So keep doing what you're doing. Then some people are taught to meditate with external stimulus like beads or music or candles or incense or things like this. I encourage you to strip those things away out of your meditation practice if you're currently meditating with them, because your mind gets attached to them. It gets fixed to them. And you have this special candle that you can only meditate with that. Or you have to meditate with incense, or you have to meditate with this music or this phone app or something like that. And all of these things are impermanent. If you build your meditation practice around incense or around a phone app or around beads, you're not going to have those things with you permanently. You would like to build up a meditation practice that you can meditate anywhere at any time. And there's only 3 things that you need for meditation: the body, the mind, and the breath. These are the only 3 things that you need: the body, the mind, and the breath. And you're going to have those 3 things with you for the rest of this life, all the way to the end of this life. So if you can build up a meditation practice around just these 3 things, that means you can meditate anywhere, anytime. So that motorbike accident that I got into the accident, the ambulance came and picked me up, took me to the hospital, and I ended up calling my wife, telling her that I was in the hospital, and she was like, all right, we're over here, I'm picking up our son from the school, is there anything you need? I was like, nope, you guys can go home, no reason to go through all the traffic, I got everything I need. Right? I had everything. I had food, I had clothing, had nurses, medicine. I didn't need anything to meditate. I could meditate right there at the hospital or anywhere else. If you're 3 days into a mountain trek in Chiang Mai, 3 days away from civilization, if you're just meditating with the body, the mind, and the breath, you can meditate anywhere. So there's times where I've been walking in a park and I'm like, this looks like a cool place to meditate. Boom, you can just sit down and meditate because you don't need anything. You've got everything with you: the body, the mind, and the breath. You don't need that special incense or candle or beads or anything like that. You can meditate anywhere, anytime. So if you're currently meditating with any of those things, if you would like to strip those out, what you might decide to do is do it gradually, because the mind doesn't tend to like abrupt change. So if you're used to meditating with music or any of these other things, and if you try to kind of go cold turkey, sometimes the mind doesn't like that. So what you might decide to do is like do 1 session with it, 1 session without, 1 session with it, 1 session without. Then go 1 session with it, 2 sessions without, 1 session with it, 2 sessions without. And then slowly expand that to the point where it's like 1 session with it, 5 or 6 sessions without it. And then eventually you get to the point where you don't need it at all, right? So if 80 or 90% of the time you're meditating with the body, the mind, and the breath, just by yourself without anybody else, this is what you would like to get to. But occasionally you're going to come to a retreat like this. You're going to be meditating with other people. You might attend Master V's Gong meditation sometimes, occasionally. This can kind of invigorate your practice a little bit. So if you do that kind of 10, 20% of the time, that's fine. But you would like 80 or 90% of your meditation to be just the body, the mind, and the breath, all by yourself, without anybody else, no attachments, just the body, the mind, and the breath. Okay? Any questions on what I've been sharing here? And I'll just remind you guys online that if you'd like to ask a question, you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or in Zoom you can raise your hand electronically. Yes, sir, Arturo. We have mics, a bunch of them now, so you can keep it with you.
Yeah, my question was, can you meditate with your eyes open? Focusing on one thing, for example.
You can. The meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, we do that with our eyes open. And with the walking meditation, do that with our eyes open. Some people try to do breathing mindfulness meditation with their eyes open as well. And you could do that. The reason why we close our eyes is that it helps the mind go internal. One of the things you're going to learn in this retreat is the 6 sense bases, and you're going to understand kind of like the central desire, and what the mind's really doing is it's longing and yearning through these 6 sense bases, like the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind. So by closing the eyes, you're kind of shutting down a sense base in order to allow the mind to go internal and do this work. But in some cases, after you get that well developed, you might try to challenge your mind a little bit and try to do meditation with your eyes open and see how that goes. So these things that I'm sharing with you, remember, you're not believing me. You're not following me, right? You're not a follower. You're your own independent practitioner. So I don't meditate with my eyes open unless I was doing the sexual craving meditation or walking meditation. But that doesn't mean that you can't do that, right? Like you can do the breathing mindfulness meditation or loving kindness meditation with your eyes open and see how that goes. Maybe you have a picture of your mom and you would like to look at her while you're doing loving kindness to build up your loving kindness meditation and the loving kindness in your mind. So you can try those kinds of things and see. Usually when you do something for the first time, the mind doesn't like that change and it kind of rejects it right away. So you need to usually do something for like a week or 2 or 3 before you really have an assessment of whether this new thing is actually really helpful or not. So that's what I would recommend, is that if you do something like that, is do it for a good little while to see if it really is impactful and helpful, because just doing it one time, you're not going to necessarily know. Any other questions you guys have? Okay. All right. So let me share some more with you guys here. This is the last thing I'll share on this topic, is just reminding you what the Buddha shared, which is meditate, students, right? He's saying monks because he's talking to monks, but meditate, students, do not be complacent lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. I can summarize this as never give up. Right? Because when you're in your meditation practice, sometimes it can feel really challenging. It can feel like a struggle. I gave up one time for 3 years. At least I thought I had given up. And I ultimately came back to meditation and continued to train. But that 3 years was a very difficult period of time in my life. And my mind got complacent, and it was very difficult during that 3 years. And it was also very difficult to get back into meditation. What you're going to notice if the mind starts becoming complacent is you might go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days without meditating. Next thing you know, it's been a week or 2 or 3. The longer you allow that complacency to go on, the harder it is to get back into meditation. And like you heard me share, one time it was 3 years that I didn't meditate for. It was very challenging to get back into meditation, starting all over from the very beginning. But if you can catch this complacency early, within the first day or 2, it's a lot easier to get back into your meditation than if you wait a really long period of time. And if you give up, it means that you're going back to the anger. You're just relegating yourself to experiencing sadness and frustration and guilt and shame and fear, all those discontent feelings for the rest of your life. But by not giving up, then you just can gradually work towards improvement. Now, if you go a period of time where you're not meditating and you're consciously doing that for a reason, like one time as I built up my meditation practice, I wasn't sure whether I was attached to meditation or not. So I decided to go a week without meditating just to see if I was attached to it or not. And then I was consciously doing that, and I got right back into meditation as well. So you might do those kinds of things occasionally, but don't allow your mind to be complacent. You're going to need to build up your meditation practice, and you're probably going to miss a few days here and there, right? Even when you get going with your meditation practice for several years, you might notice in a particular month, you might miss 1 or 2 or 3 sessions here or there. Your meditation or your enlightenment is not going to be determined whether you missed a meditation or not. So if you missed meditation today, that's not going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not. What's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment is once you miss your meditation today, what do you do next? Do you allow that to be 1 week or 1 year or 10 years? Or do you realize, okay, I missed meditation this morning. Let me get on to it this evening, right? Let me do a meditation this evening. Let me get right back into it. So don't beat yourself up if you miss a meditation here or there. You're not going to be able to meditate every single day of your life for 3 times a day. It's just not possible. That would be permanent. So that's why I say 2 or 3 times per day for 30 minutes or more, and gradually build up to that. But even still, nowadays, there's an occasional day where I might meditate once, right? And I'm not able to even get the 2 times per day. There's an occasional day, maybe once or twice or 3 times a month, where I only do 1 per day, right? You don't have to beat yourself up about that. The benefits of meditation accumulate over time. So it's kind of like a bucket. If you have a bucket and you go to a trough and you're scooping water in this bucket, as you're scooping water in this bucket, it accumulates, and more this bucket is overflowing. So if you've been meditating for 6 months, a year, 2 years, for a really long, consistent period of time, and you're typically meditating 2 or 3 times a day, but occasionally you do 1 meditation per day, no harm, no foul. Your bucket's still full of water. So you're going to accumulate these benefits over time. So don't feel like you have to force yourself to meditate 3 times a day. And if you don't do that, you're a bad person and you're not going to get to enlightenment. That's not how any of this works. It's based on, can you meditate consistently over the next 2 years, the next 3 years, the next 5 years? Can you consistently put together enough meditation sessions that you'll accumulate enough benefits over the next several years? That's what's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment, not if you just miss 1 session here or there. So I encourage you to never, ever, ever give up. Okay? All right. Any questions before we wrap up this topic? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good morning. So when I do meditation, so somehow, so counting the breathe in, breathe out, it's so maybe easy to concentrate breathing for me. Do you think it's okay, or just so no counting, just try focusing, just try to focus the breathing will be better?
Yes, you would like to just focus on the breathing. Any kind of counting, or here in Thailand, some people teach you to say pu to during meditation. All you're doing is replacing whatever thought you would have had with another thought, with the counting or with the puto, right? And what you're trying to do is train the mind to let go. So if you're introducing counting into your meditation, you would have had a different thought or another thought, but you don't know that because you're just counting. So you're just giving the mind something else to hold on to. So what you would like to do is get to the point where your mind's not holding on to anything, including the counting, because you would like to get so well developed that you notice that there's a thought with your mindfulness and you can internally cut it off and let it go. Whereas if you're counting, you're not allowing the mind to develop that mindfulness or awareness of mind, and you haven't trained the mind to let go of anything because you're actually introducing something into the mind to think about. So you would like to get to the point where you just focus on the breath, knowing that you will have a thought, but when you have a thought, notice it sooner and sooner and cut it off easier and easier and let it go.
Okay, thank you. So simply, so to being mindfulness. So when meditating, so not without counting. So
right.
Maybe counting is another thought. So
yeah, it's just another thought. You're just replacing whatever thought you would have had with that thought. So it's basically like trying to block the mind from having this thought over here by giving it another thought. So it's kind of like you don't give the kid chocolate, you give them chocolate ice cream, right? Yeah. So it's like you're still feeding the craving of the mind. You're not giving it the ability to have this thought, but instead you're interjecting and introducing this thought over here so it won't have this thought. This isn't the way to train the mind. That's not going to produce the ability for the mind to let go because it hasn't actually let go. Instead of holding on to this thought, it's holding on to this one over here, which is the counting. So it hasn't actually let go of anything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And the breath that you're developing, it should be nice and gradual, right? Nice and slow. If you're noticing you have rapid breath, you might need to do a little bit of breath training outside of your meditation where you just focus on developing the breath, where you can just take some nice gradual inhales and then some nice gradual exhales. And there should be a gap there in between. So when I'm breathing, it's kind of like, and then there's kind of like a little gap there, and then it's an exhale. Right? It's almost like about a 10-second inhale with a 2 or 3 second gap, and then another 10-second exhale. Right? And if you get your sternum up and your shoulders back, you should be able to breathe nice and slow and steady like this. So when I say a natural breath, What I mean is a gradual breath, that you should build this ability to naturally breathe nice and slow. I noticed that when I first started meditating, I wasn't breathing very well. It was very shallow and very rapid. And my mind was very rapid too. So when I slowed the breath down and breathed very gradually, then when I fixated the mind on the breath, the mind slowed down, because you're not interested in those rapid thoughts in the mind. You're interested in slowing things down so you can make wise decisions in your life. So if you slow your breath down and your mind is fixated to your breath, it will slow your mind down too. So you like just nice gradual breaths in and out. Mm-hmm.
You. So really to focus the breathing means so to aware my breath. Then, so as I mentioned, so just deeply focus. So usually, so we don't focus. So breathe in, breathe out when walking, but the meditation, so focusing the breath means really deeply just concentrate breathing.
Yeah, just focus on the sound of the breath or the sensation of air, because that breath is the present moment. Your mind's going to potentially be interested in being in the past, or it's going to want to be in the future. When you're meditating and your mind's untrained and undisciplined, it wants to be all over the place. The last thing it wants to do is sit down and be a good boy or be a good girl, right? It's the last thing the mind wants to do. It wants to be all over the place, frolicking in the forest. So you're training the mind to be on the breath, which is the present moment. Like, that's right now.
Okay,
right?
Thank you so much. Yes. So I just counting, because so while I counting, so the another thought didn't come. Was there any room? Because I concentrate the focusing, concentrate counting. So, but counting is also another thought.
Yeah, people who usually count during meditation, when they're taught that way, they usually have very rapid thoughts in their mind, and they tend to talk very rapidly. So if you were taught to meditate by counting, this is going to produce rapid thoughts in your mind, and it's going to potentially produce rapid speech as well. And you're looking to slow things down, be very concentrated and focused and deliberate about your thoughts and about the decisions that you make.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to take a break here. I don't see any questions online. I'm going to take a break for you guys. So now it's basically 10:30. So let's take a nice 20-minute break and come back at 10:50. And I'm going to share with you guys what is enlightenment, and then we're going to talk about the Four Noble Truths as well. So enjoy your break, spend time with each other, and we'll see you afterwards. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.